How you doing, everybody? Icy here. With everything happening in the border right now, with Title 42 being canceled and the massive influx of illegal aliens coming into the country, I thought I'd do some research and come up with some stats for you. So bear with me. I'm looking at my notes. All right, now, according to ICE, they use 737s to normally transport the illegals when they ship them out of the country. For high risk individuals, they use either a 767 or a 777. Well, let's just stick with the 737 for this issue, which is a maximum of 149 seats. Now, under the Trump administration, there were 51,000 encounters monthly with illegals. Under Biden, more now, but the average when Biden first came in, it was 189,000 encounters per month. Now, I went to 24 different websites on they deal with removals of illegals and stuff, and everyone gave a different story. And I found out that the first not 20, but the first 10 tended to be pro-Democrat sites. So you actually have to go to the second or third page before you start seeing actual data that is relevant. Let's see. The average cost to ship an illegal out of the country is around $8,000. It's a little less, but average cost is $8,000. In 2016, the U.S. shipped out of here 110,000 illegals were removed from the country. Now, according to ICE and their own website, the measure of efficiency is not how they judge when they ship them out and you have a bunch of empty seats. So look at it that way. ICE is shipping people out on a plane. They're chartering a 737 to fly these people out of the country, and they have empty seats. That's not very cost efficient to the taxpayers. And let's see. I did some research, and this is going to be crazy. If we bothered to do something a little differently, and instead of putting them on a plane, which is expensive, and let's see, what was it? There were in 2015. They only shipped out 110,000 people, and if you divide that by 149 seats at $8,000 per person, they spent a little less than $6 million on shipping illegals out of the country just in that year alone. Well, if you were to take a military ship, say an LHA, a Tarawa class LHA, it can house up to 5,000 people. Now, you don't need to have that many. You're not going to deploy an air wing on there. You're not going to need, helicopters except for, the ship's helo itself, maybe two. So you're not going to have that. You're not going to have all the deployed Marines. So you have all those extra beds. So financially, just to use one Tarawa class ship, you can actually ship more illegals out of the country at one time. You take the ship, like from down around Corpus Christi, Texas, you bring it and ship it right back down to South America. 4-day trip. All you got to do is just feed the people while they're on board ship. If you're really cruel, you could use cargo ships and stick them in cargo containers, but we're not communist yet. But that's what's going on. Now, on a different note, to show that we really have to put a stop to the massive influx of illegals coming into our country and the detriment it has to the taxpayers. There are currently over 12 million illegals in the country. There are currently 45 million immigrants, which makes up 14% of the population of the United States. Now, I looked this up, and this year in school there are 427,000 undocumented students. Now, I looked it up. The average cost is less than $14,000 per student, but we'll just round it up to $14,000. So, if you do $14,000 per student, it is costing the taxpayers $5.9 billion a year to educate illegals. $5.9 billion would go a long way to repairing our schools and fixing the broken walls along the immigration. I mean, think about it. The wall was paid for, and Biden stopped it the first day he was in office. What does that tell you? The state of Arizona used cargo containers and tried to breach the holes in the wall with cargo containers stacked 3 high, and the Biden administration sued the state because of what they did. So that right there is a clear indication they want these illegals coming in. I live in New York State, and this is a fact. I've spoken to a person who is an illegal, and this is what he told me personally. Now, I'll take a lie detector test if I have to on this one. When he came here to New York from Honduras, he sought government assistance. New York has a tendency to override federal law, which says you're not supposed to give aid to illegals, and they use a different terminology, but they're giving aid to illegals on the taxpayer's dime. So this guy, he was getting food stamps, medical, housing, and he was getting welfare payments too. And because he had kids, education benefits. And he said, how can you give me this? He says, the people worked at the social services in New York, this is what they told him. You are allowed to vote in all local and state elections because you are a resident here in our area. As long as you vote Democrat, we can ensure that you will continue to receive these benefits. His words, not mine, but this is what he told me. So, whether that's true or not, I've never confronted anybody in social services to ask them if that's what they're actually doing. But based upon the fact that so many illegals want to come to New York State, we have 8 Democrats for every 1 Republican in New York City. We have a governor here that currently is trying to dictate, with the help of a predominantly Democrat state legislator, both the Senate and the state representatives, they're targeting gas stoves, barbecue grills, they're targeting, air conditioners, they're targeting pickup trucks. They're imposing basically at the barrel of a gun, you will do this or else. So none of these things were ever brought up. But getting back to this, if this statement by this illegal that I know is true, then you are looking at millions and millions, if not billions of dollars of support going to illegals that should be going to citizens. Now, why do they want illegals to come into this country? If that statement was true and that they can vote in all state and local elections, as long as they vote Democrat, it answers a lot of questions as to why Democrats seem to be winning so many elections, and the fact that they're questioning a lot of it because these votes are being sent in through the mail and you're not verifying citizenship. So these are questions that really must be answered, but this is what I found out. So draw your own conclusions or do your own research. Icy out.